Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Claudia Monacelli with another episode of my podcast, Multiple Voices. Today I have a guest. Her name is Damla Aktekin. She's here talking to us from New Hampshire. Damla, come and say hello to our audience.
Hello, everyone.
And let me introduce her to you. Damla is an inner child, energetic wound healer. Now, that's a mouthful, but with many adjectives, but it's a very interesting take on healing. And she'll, of course, talk about that. She's a crystal healing teacher and soul healing writer who helps other self healers and healers move beyond the energetic wounds of their inner children and shine brighter than they thought possible so that they can fully show up in their lives to heal themselves, their families, and their soul community, which is lovely as well, the idea of a soul community. And through her own healing journey, she discovered a unique way to approach crystal healing, which is based on cultivating a loving, co-creative, and respectful relationship with crystals that activates their limitless healing potential. And this is interesting because I work with crystals, I read crystals, and crystals are always spoken about. But it's not, this is the first time that I hear it described and used in this way, crystals, how they are dealt with. Damla is the author of life-changing daily practice journals, the creator of the Chakra Bliss Vault Crystal Healing Membership. She has these mouthfuls. Let me say that again. Chakra Bliss Vault Crystal Healing Membership, and the host of the Conversations with Healers podcast. Find out more about her, what she offers, and I will be writing this. Her email, not her email. They'll be at your door at Damla. Her website, adropofom.com, and I'll put it in the description. Damla, the question before we started, I asked you, what's a nice girl like you doing in New Hampshire? Just a little chit chat, but that same question is pertinent here. What's a nice girl like you dealing with the child? How did you come to choose the child as an inner wound?
Well, I did and I didn't.
It chose you.
It's so what I do has come to me in steps. And the first step was in my own life, I did not know I had any energetic wounds. Mm-hmm. I didn't see anything that I had lived through as trauma or as unusual. That was just the way it was in my family, in the families that I've known growing up in Turkey. And then my first sort of break from the norm was I held a health emergency. So I came to the US, did my MBA, studied engineering, went into corporate life as a business consultant. And then in 2005, I woke up in the middle of the night with incredible pain in my head. And now I know that to be an indication because I was living all up here. I was living in my head. I didn't have a body.
Which many people do, by the way. It's very common.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even realize that was an option. So that was sort of a wake-up call. I ended up in the emergency room. Long story short, I realized something needed to change, and I started practicing yoga.
Uh-huh.
Now, the next 5 years, I immersed myself in yoga in all possible ways.
I was joking. I was joking the other day with another guest, and she was a yoga teacher. And I said, look, I'll tell you something. You can hate me, but yoga gives me the hives. So we laughed. So I know. So it was only 5 years, you said you immersed yourself.
So 2009, 5 through 2000. Well, it's a little bit more than that, but it started around 2005, so it'll be more. So what happened was I ended up switching from my corporate career to being a full-time yoga teacher. And at the
Mm.
beginning, I hated it.
Yeah,
But
you
something
hated it. Oh,
kept.
what? Why? Why did you hate it?
Well, I went to my very first yoga class and I kneeled down on the mat and I was looking around. I was wearing my socks, first of all. Everyone was barefoot and I didn't have my own mat, so I was using somebody else's mat. And I'm like, I'm not putting my head down to where people are putting their feet. So I was a little
Great.
put off by that. But something happened and I felt a connection first time in my life very strongly with my body. So I was
Uh-huh.
in my mind and now I realize I have a body.
Mm-hmm.
And then I became a full-time yoga teacher. I became a yoga studio manager, the whole 9 yards. And then in 2012, I became a mom
Mm-hmm.
through emergency C-section.
Sorry, you became a mom? Did you say a mother?
I did become a mom through emergency C-section, I said.
Ah, okay, okay.
So that was interesting because in the aftermath of that, with the new demands of being a mom, and I call it again, I was living in the head, I was living in the body, and in this new time, starting in 2012 with the birth of my child, nothing I knew worked. I felt cut off, literally, like the same way my belly was cut off. I felt cut off
So
from my
wait,
essence.
let me get it straight. No matter that you were practicing yoga, you were teaching yoga, and you were fully immersed, that is a practice that is very particular. Still, nonetheless, you had this disconnect.
Yes, and nothing I knew worked.
Aha.
Yoga didn't work because my body felt so strange
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't, and so painful.
Yeah.
I couldn't meditate with
Uh-huh.
the, again, 21st motherhood. No one explained that to you
Yeah, nobody
beforehand.
tells you. They don't even say how painful it is.
Yeah, but I also realized, so with the yoga, I began to touch upon the energetic wounds a little bit, but
Yeah.
again, not that
It
much,
wasn't
because as long as
enough.
I could hold the pose, you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
I didn't need to dive
And it
deeper
was
than that.
just a pose.
I mean, not. I mean, I was doing it with my whole heart, but I didn't understand exactly what was happening underneath the
Okay.
pose.
Okay.
So then I found myself at a place where I have this light being in my arms that I love. I'm feeling awful, and I'm not getting better. I'm not getting better.
How old was the child then?
Just born. I
Okay.
mean, the first
Okay.
year we're talking
Postpartum
about.
depression, could we call that or no?
I did not name it.
Mm-hmm.
I did not, but it just felt like this, like the light was shut off.
Mm-hmm.
I felt myself in the
Okay.
darkness. And I said, I'm going to go through every rabbit hole that's presented to me
Mm.
in order to find light.
Okay.
And I came across an interview about crystals.
Uh-huh.
And that's how my experimentation with crystals began, which was a little different than what you might see out there. Of course, at the beginning, I mean, I would get a crystal book or I would read about crystals, but I found that, first of all, I had 5 or 10 minutes to practice, and I would go back to my yoga essence and just place them on my body, on my chakras,
Your
what I knew.
crystals. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would meditate with them, and it wasn't just, I would just get better, but I could feel
But they
like
brought you
gradually,
light. They were bringing
exactly,
you.
gradually, like I would feel better after each
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes, a little bit better, a little bit better. So they were doing something. And then I realized that the resources that I was able to look at had conflicting information.
Yes. Mm.
They would tell me to put a crystal
Yes.
somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
and I would find that at
It didn't.
that particular meditation or meeting with the crystal, they wanted to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I, instead of relying on a book or something outside of myself, I started to rely more and more into my own intuition,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that began to deepen my healings, which led me to offering these healings as private sessions, as group sessions, and then eventually through all the questions people started to ask me, because
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning my goal wasn't
Mm-hmm.
to
Well,
teach this.
can I stop you, because as you're talking, it made me think of something. What is your I know it's like asking what's your favorite child when you have more than one, but what is your favorite crystal?
Well, my favorite crystal is my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
She's a crystal
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that we're all crystals.
Mm-hmm.
I think I get to watch her form and reform and evolve. And I can talk about how I see crystals now
Yeah.
through this. As I mentioned, the teaching part was critical because I realized there's so much confusion about this, and it
Yeah.
can be so much simpler. It can just be about connection and love.
A connection and love. Right. Right.
And I
Energy.
realized that the way that I approached crystals was working because um, without making the connection, then like I was holding them very gently. I
Yeah.
was looking at them with love at a time that I couldn't do that to my body because my body was
Right.
strange.
Mm-hmm.
But as I held these objects as, or what I then thought were objects, these vibrational structures with
Mm-hmm.
love, that love sort of radiated back to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in my research, in trying to understand what crystals are, I found out, or that's the way I see them, is crystals are ancestors. Anything that
Could be.
contributes to your life in some
Mm-hmm.
way is an ancestor, and crystals are the building blocks of the universe
Mm-hmm.
and us. Our DNA is a liquid crystal. Our bones are 65% or more minerals. Water in our bodies is crystalline. The fascia has crystalline
Mm-hmm.
properties.
Well, now I have to stop you there because this would, I could listen to what you're saying and I could take out the key words. Instead of crystals, I could put in energy. We are all energy. The walls are energy. Our fascia are energy.
Yes.
They seem,
Yeah.
you
I
know,
mean, hence my website, A Drop of Om. We're
uh-huh.
all vibrations, drops
Mm-hmm.
of Om,
Mm-hmm.
drops of vibration, swimming in a sea of vibration,
Okay.
and crystals are
Okay.
a part of that.
All
So
right.
you're
So
you're
now
right on.
we have the crystal healing and how you got into that. But what about the inner child energetic
Great
wound?
question.
Because that,
So
in
as
the,
I began to work
yeah.
with people
Yeah.
in groups and as individuals, more so in individual work, um, I began to, and my work is very interactive. It's not like you lie down and sometimes I do that depending on
Mm-hmm.
the situation. If I'm working with a younger person,
Yeah.
perhaps, but usually it's very interactive. And I began to like ask people questions when they would describe a spot in their body
Yeah.
that felt like it wasn't
Yeah.
flowing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I kept asking, like, how old is that spot?
Uh-huh. Why?
And
Why were you
I,
asking how old
I
was that
think
spot?
um, it was a way for me to keep their attention there,
Yeah.
also to help them begin to make a different kind of connection, not the connection where you're trying to push away the pain or numb down the pain,
Right.
versus you're asking the pain questions.
Mm-hmm.
And the question of how old is this, how old or how long has this been here,
Yeah.
has continually brought up, or it started to bring up in the people that I work with. They would see a 5-year old in there, 5-year
Ah,
old
okay. I
themselves,
see what you're saying. Mm-hmm.
or they would see a 10-year old in the
Uh-huh.
middle of the lump in their throat.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So that would give me clues. And then I would begin to ask them questions about connecting to that 10-year old. So
Okay.
that's how it all started.
Okay. But it's not just, you could say that's how it all started. But I'm sure I would imagine that since you started looking at the child as an archetype, that it has an age old, the talk about the inner child is lifetimes ago. This is a body of work that has been written about and researched the world over for many, many, many years. What I'm interested in knowing is, how do you heal the inner child? What would your process be? And why do you call it the wound?
So the inner child, to me, like you said, is not only an archetype.
Yeah.
To me, the inner child we're talking about, or in my world, it is the quantum potential of a particular moment.
Okay.
And the quantum potential of all your lifetimes, all your past, presents, parallel presents, and futures live here in the now. And if you look at it that way, it becomes that any given pattern that came into place, that was born out of a non-life affirming,
Sorry,
non-life
non-life?
enhancing,
What was that?
non-life affirming,
What's that?
and
I don't.
instead of, I don't like to use the word negative. That's my way of defining energetic wounds.
No, I didn't hear it. I didn't
So
hear it. The non-life, and then I didn't hear that word.
affirming.
How do you spell
Affirm.
it?
AFFIRM.
Oh, affirming, ing.
Not
Oh,
life affirming or not life enhancing experience
Okay.
creates a
I
pattern
see.
in your body
Yeah.
and in your field. And that pattern usually presents as a physical symptom somewhere in your body, like the lump in your throat or heaviness in your stomach or wherever it is. What I realized is that there are ways to try to rid you of that pattern, or try to replace that pattern. My approach is look through that pattern and see the potential within.
Okay. Why I'm asking you this is because I use the word archetype because, of course, it is an archetype, just like the old lady, just like the witch, just like the mother, the goddess, and the child is represents, because when you talk about the child, everyone knows what that is. That's why we call it an archetype. But our inner child, because you say inner child, when we have to heal an inner child, it's, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm trying to interpret what you're saying and understand. We have something that needs healing or taking care of. A child is something that other people take care of. And you're using it also as a metaphor. There's something that needs healing, that needs caring for. Is this what you're saying?
Not exactly. What I'm saying is there's a part of you
Yeah.
that holds pain. And within that part of you is the potential that wasn't realized. And that potential, so to me, in my world, I don't see the inner child as necessarily wounded or disabled or as irreparable, or what I am reaching for is the part of you that cannot be hurt. And that part of you is hidden underneath the noise, which is the pattern. But by nourishing that part of you, you can release the pattern.
Okay, because you describe yourself as a child energetic wound healer. So the word is
Yes,
there. Uh-huh.
the word is there, but it's a little bit more nuanced than that.
Okay.
And you mentioned the word archetypes. we have millions and millions. I mean, we have infinite amounts of archetypes inside. And that's
But
the way the
all
inner.
people have an inner child. That all people have an inner prostitute. They represent faces of fear. All of us have. I was born under a different star. I could have said, I was
That is true, but the fear of a 2-year-old and the fear of a 10-year-old are different.
Of course.
And they're both inner children. So in my world, I call them inner children,
right?
Not just one entity inside of you.
Sure. But if you call it a child, it has always the meaning of having to be taken care of, whether it's 2, 6, 8, anything under 18, let's say. But if you
we all need to be taken care of regardless of our age.
Yes. But when you talk of an inner child, it goes without saying. It's implied that needs to be taken care of.
I'm not sure where you want me to go with this.
No, I'm not going anywhere. I'm trying to understand because we all have. All right, let's say because I work with archetypes, I give archetypal readings, and this is why I'm talking about it. When if I went to you, Damla, you give me your name, your birth sign, your birth date, and all of that, and I look and I use the Akashic records, and I find that for certain aspects, your overarching archetype is the goddess or the healer, or could be, but irrespective of whether you are that, you do have an inner child. You do have an inner prostitute. You do have, there are things that act as antagonists to you or that need taking care of. This is where I wanted to go with it. And why I'm asking and why I'm talking about it is that I'm trying to understand. Let's say I'm a client. Okay, I go to your website and I see that there's a membership, the Chakra Bliss Vault Crystal Healing Membership. And there's a description, I imagine, there of what that is. And then, I become a member. If I go to you and I feel that, like you said to me before, nothing was working, and I turn to you and you looking for the healer of a child energetic wound healer, how would you work with me? Would you work with me in a group on a one-to-one basis? How do you usually?
The membership is mainly an energetic support. It's a crystal healing membership. So for inner child healing, currently you would work with me one-on-one.
Okay.
And we would dive in and I would help you connect with whatever inner child is coming forward at that time. And the inner child may point out to some of the needs that need to be taken care of.
Of course.
And we can definitely bring those to the surface.
What do these sessions look like? How long would they be on a one-to-one, typically?
Well, we start with an hour long and then depends on your needs. And then the exploration is usually the first session. You get used to how I work. I get used to your energy. And then the next session, we dive deeper and then dive deeper. I work with crystals. I work with guided imagery and intuitive guidance. And it's a unique session depending on where you are and what your needs are.
So can you, if you think of it a little bit, is there an average number of sessions that people usually need to then feel like they can stand on their own 2 feet or feel like they've had enough benefit, they have enough takeaways where they can say thank you and they leave? Is that how it works?
Yeah, I mean, if they're coming to me with a very specific intention, with a specific issue, usually 3 sessions is a great number.
Okay.
We can look at it from 3 different perspectives. And then I have a 5 and 10 session package if you feel like you really want to get down to different layers and explore the issue.
And you also mentioned that you teach teach something about crystals?
Yes, I published a crystal healing journal,
Mm-hmm.
taking people on a 21-day journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a crystal healing simplified online course,
What does that
as
look
well
like?
as
How many
it is a
meetings?
very deep dive. There are 9 guided meditations in it, um, ranging from just relaxation to deeper wound healing.
Uh,
And then I guide you through everything, pretty much everything you need to know to start and continue your crystal healing practice.
okay, okay. And so this is they are classes, or are they?
This
Is
is an
it
online course.
an online course? Okay, okay. So the face to face would be a one to one with the child healing. Then that's when
Yes.
you do you have group sessions like a group dynamic where
I do where I live. I like to do them in person.
okay.
Now, now I'm getting back to them slowly. So that gives people a chance to do that. And the group healing part is a part of my membership. So there you can experience the group healing.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. And what's next? Because, well, no, I did mention, I did see that you mentioned astrology and balancing the natural elements, your natural elements. What do you work? Do you work with astrology specifically with on a one-to-one, or do you? What is your take on astrology? That like yoga gives me the hives.
I see. Well, it's another archetypal realm, astrology is, and I've been drawn to it. I am a beginner student of it.
Uh-huh.
I should mention I'm starting a 3-year
Ah,
education
good,
program with
good.
astrology. But I'm drawn to it mainly because it's been an interesting couple years, in my opinion, and I felt often um, almost like these energetic cosmic waves
Yeah.
pushing us around, like
Hmm.
slapping us on one cheek and then the other cheek.
Yeah.
So I'd like to understand that a little better. And as I dove into it, like you're mentioning the elements, which is interesting to me, I'm finding that gives just another layer and depth to what I'm doing and understanding myself as well as my clients
Okay, so it
in terms
offers you more understanding of your emotional
of
life,
the
or
the symbology is strong. I mean, whether
hmm
I do readings of astrology in the future or not, I don't know at this
okay.
point. But it is offering me just another depth of understanding, which is what
Uh-huh.
I love.
Um, I also mentioned when I introduced you, apart from the teacher, but a soul healing writer. And I imagine this is your journaling. Is this what the writing part?
I am. You did ask what's next. I am in the process of writing my story and the way I see crystals,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had quite a few client and group healing stories by now that I'm gathering. So that is in the works. But I call it soul healing writing because English is not my first language.
Uh-huh.
It is something I learned in middle school and I continue to learn and evolve in it. I
Mm-hmm.
often tell people I can run in Turkish, I can
Yeah.
comfortably walk
In
in
English.
English.
Good.
And so my writing doesn't have the purpose of being prose perfect, but it does have the purpose of bringing something through,
There are
bringing
editors. I mean, there's so
healing.
many editors could
Exactly,
for.
exactly. But it is, it has a very specific purpose of
Mm-hmm.
just getting the message out there.
Mm-hmm.
And
As
I
you're
write
talking.
on my social media. I write a pretty popular blog, so it's been a part of my journey all
Yeah.
along.
As you were talking, I
And
was thinking.
the journals came through during the pandemic.
Ah.
They were a project because I had this. I had a free online um, course about mantras. That was like a
Ah.
40-day practice.
Okay.
That was my very first journal. And then someone reached out to me and they said, I love this, but I'm so inconsistent with it. And
Ah,
she said, I wish I had a journal to write in. And I was like, okay, let's just, and I had it already written down and I wrote it down
hmm.
and turned it into a
It's
journal. And then that opened the door for
it's
the
healing.
crystal
Writing is
journal.
healing. Mm,
I wrote a gratitude journal. Again, with like with my, I like telling a story. It is a story. Like it is taking, it's almost like taking a workshop with me for 21 days or for
hmm.
40 days,
Yeah.
because I am guiding you. I'm giving you like little bits. I'm not like feeding you everything, but with each day you're getting a little bit to keep
Hmm.
you going. And people usually find it pretty gratifying to go through those journals.
Well, what is your favorite Crystal doing now? How old is she?
She's 10. This
Oh,
is her first day of middle school.
wow. Poor girl. Middle school is such a pain in the neck.
She's so far so good. She's
Yeah,
pretty
I
happy
know.
about it.
Well, it
I'm
gets
happy
worse.
about it. Um, there's of course, I mean, her life is changing, and I'm changing as a mother for her, and through my connection with her. So it is a wild and interesting and beautiful journey to be a
Yeah.
mom.
Damla, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. It was such a pleasure.
Mm.
Really, such a pleasure to see your perspective of healing the inner child and specifically crystals, which is very specific compared to other people. Thank you again.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Bye bye.